call on Stuart Stevenson to wind up the debate until 5 o'clock, Minister.
Thank you very much indeed, Presiding Officer. Let me treat this somewhat didactically for the hard of hearing and hard of heeding. I'll talk about policy, I'll talk about finance, I'll talk about the capability of the new crossing. I hope I'll have time to respond to as many members as I can. Policy. The policy has not changed. The policy is to have multimodal capability between Edinburgh and between Fife. What has, of course, changed is the implementation of that policy in the light of the innovative and exciting work that is being done by the professional engineers in Transport Scotland. Implementation that delivers a huge financial benefit, while simultaneously, in fact, opening up for future administrations, if they so choose, further capacity options. Our option is, of course, to deliver the replacement for the existing capacity that there is on the bridge that was opened in 1964, but the design gives us the opportunity, in particular for public transport, to increase capacity, to increase reliability, to deliver the kind of public transport intervention that we have not seen, particularly in buses, for a generation.
Patrick Harvey.
Grateful. The Minister, I think, if I'm right in saying for the first time on the record, has implicitly implied that future administrations will have the choice under his scheme to increase road capacity between these two crossings by using the existing crossing. If his climate change targets mean anything at all, surely he needs to have a system in place to prevent that from happening. Will he guarantee that the SNP would never support such a scheme, and how will he prevent future administrations from doing so?
Stuart Stevenson.
The member knows, because I'm sure he will have read the climate change bill, that it provides for predictions forward as to how much carbon we have to eliminate from their economy. I think that is precisely the handcuffs on future policy making in a range of areas that the member might care to look at. Let me, Presiding Officer, move on to the subject of finance. And let me just start by saying, for everyone, the bridge is safe, the finance is safe, the finance is known. For those that are hard of hearing, the bridge is safe, the finance is safe, we know where we're going. And finally, for the hard of heeding, the bridge is safe, the funding is safe, we know where it's coming from. It's coming from the government. Yes, Mr. Purvis first.
I am grateful.
I
am grateful for the Minister giving way. With regards to the reduction in the cost estimates of the current government solution, what proportion of that reduction is owing to the funding mechanism which they have now opted for?
Stuart Stevenson.
Choosing a funding mechanism that comes from our own resources is clearly the best value for money. That is a significant change from using mechanisms such as a lease and shadow toll, such as using PPP. Significant change in what the price would be by using the funding mechanism that we have selected.
I want to put a very important point to the Minister that has not been answered so far by a ministerial spokesman in this debate. Why was there such a delay in ministers seeking Treasury approval? Why was this only sought 14 days before the announcement made in December? Was this due to incompetence or some other more sinister reason?
Stuart Stevenson.
Within a very short space of time of Cabinet concluding the shape of this project, we approached the Treasury. That was the right time to do it. That was the right way to do it. And let me at this point very much welcome the open approach that I think is being taken by the Treasury. We expect to have fruitful and useful discussions when Mr Swinney and I meet with the Treasury team in the next few weeks. Let me turn to the capability of the bridge. The capability of the bridge, first of all, is that it provides replacement capacity for freight vehicles and for the private car, 2 lanes in each direction. We enhance, however, the weatherproofing compared to the existing bridge. We should, as on the Severn, where the modern bridge hardly ever closes, probably never, compared to the old bridge. We would see the same on the Forth. Similarly, the provision of a hard shoulder means that breakdowns and accidents will interfere less with the operation of the bridge. This, briefly,
Ellen Eadie.
The question in finance about European funding, you haven't responded to that under finance.
Minister.
We did explore that without success. Let me continue on capability and talk about the old bridge. The old bridge is, of course, a bridge that was built with a 120-year life. But that 120-year life was predicated on a number of things. First of all, that we wouldn't have corrosion in the cables. Second of all, that we would have a much lower utilisation than we do have on this bridge. It's interesting that they responded across the Severn very early to capacity design point being reached. They have similar utilisation on 2 bridges across the Severn. So we're faced today with a bridge that is approaching that safety point, but a bridge that is continuing to deteriorate simply through use. The kind of vehicles carried on the bridge, very different from the kind of vehicles that there were when it was first opened. Let me try and make a few responses to members in the limited time that's available. I very much welcomed Derek Lowry's acceptance of the funding model that we've adopted. I think that's useful.
Order. There are far too many
sensible.
conversations going on.
I think Marlon Livingston went to the hub of it. The case is made for a new crossing. The multimodal capability is there. George Fawkes conflated funding and project management. The problem with the Parliament was not the funding mechanism, it was the project management. And he raised the issue of local authority borrowing. Well, the difficulty is that under the adoption of international financial reporting standards, that would have to be in the balance sheet at the outset of the local authorities. Exactly the same problem as PFI, exactly the same problem with borrowing. Murdo Fraser quoted Churchill. Well, Churchill said, "Prediction is difficult, especially about the future." And this is certainly true about the deterioration of the bridge. But we cannot gamble that things will magically come right. Margaret Smith, we've been advertising this week in the Scotsman and Metro and other papers about the engagement there will be with communities. It will be very, very substantial. Even Patrick Harvey said a road crossing remains an important part of our transport infrastructure, and I thought that was important and interesting. Chris Harvey suggested a barter approach might be of value. Very interesting. Perhaps we'll not look at that immediately. Presiding officer, in 1935, my great-uncle was the chairman of the campaign committee for the Forth Road Bridge. He anticipated 6,000 vehicles a day crossing that bridge. Today we have 11 times that. The world has changed since 1935. It's also changed since 1964. I commend the motion in my colleague's name to Parliament.